Sometimes readers just aren't ready. Sometimes publishers don't know what they have. And sometimes genius looks like failure, at least for a while. Today, we continue the countdown with 10 more speculative masterpieces that went from forgotten to foundational. Hi, I'm Jim. This is Fantasy for the Ages, the show where my son Zach and I get together and talk about fantasy, science fiction, horror, and other nerdy things we enjoy. Zach is off doing his own thing today as I continue this solo series, diving deep into some great books of fantasy, sci fi, and horror. If you enjoy discovering the stories time almost left behind, hit that like button, subscribe to this channel, and hit that notification bell so you won't miss the next part of the series. And a huge thank you to our Patreon supporters. You're the ones that make videos like this possible. If you would like to explore being part of our Patreon community, check out the link below for all the perk descriptions. Also down there, you'll find plenty of other ways to interact with my son and I. Our Discord server, there's an invite. We'd love to have you over there. Our social media links, and even our email. So, 10 more of this 50 book list for you today. Again, shocking novels that you may have no idea flopped because they are such magnificent works of fiction today. Let's get to the list. Our first book this time is A Canticle for Leibowitz by Walter M. Miller Jr., 1960 post-apocalyptic science fiction novel, and book one of the Leibowitz trilogy. After nuclear apocalypse, monks of a remote desert abbey preserve fragments of scientific knowledge for a future civilization that may again destroy itself. Initially a modest seller that was dismissed as overly bleak, it became a Hugo winner and is now recognized as one of the greatest post-apocalyptic novels ever written. Second book for today, Good Omens by Neil Gaiman and Terry Pratchett, 1990 comic fantasy novel, a standalone. Probably shocking that it was a flop. An angel and a demon team up to stop Armageddon after losing track of the Antichrist, a British schoolboy. Bureaucracy, prophecy, and divine absurdity ensue. This book did not sell particularly well at first, and it puzzled critics. What the heck is this about? But decades later, it's a cult favorite, and it was boosted by the hit Amazon series of the same name. Our third book for today is Something Wicked This Way Comes by Ray Bradbury, 1962 dark fantasy horror genre mashup, a standalone novel. Two boys confront a sinister traveling carnival that feeds on human desires and fears. Time, temptation, and friendship collide under the autumn lights. This book was overshadowed on release by other works, but slowly over time it grew into Bradbury's most beloved dark fantasy novel through critical reevaluation and a film adaptation. Funny how often a film can give a novel the boost it needs. Number 4, The Shining by Stephen King, back when he was just this guy writing books. 1977, a horror novel and book one of the Shining series. I think there's only 2 because I'm reading the second one right now. Jack Torrance, his wife Wendy, and son Danny spend the winter caretaking an isolated hotel where supernatural forces drive Jack to madness. While not an outright flop, initial critical reception was harsh, and King himself disliked Kubrick's adaptation. That doesn't help. Yet, this novel is now viewed as a masterpiece that defined haunted horror for generations. Number 5, The Last Unicorn by Peter S. Beagle, 1968, a fantasy standalone novel. A unicorn sets out to discover what happened to the rest of her kind, joined by a bumbling magician and a lost prince. This was released to lukewarm sales and very little marketing. It later revived through the animated film and 21st century reprints as a lyrical fantasy classic. I'll admit, it took a long time before I even heard of this novel, so maybe you'd never heard of it yet. It's worth checking out. Our 6th selection for today is A Scanner Darkly by Philip K. Dick, not his first appearance on this top 50. This 1977 science fiction novel is a standalone. An undercover narcotics agent loses his identity to the drug he's investigating, caught between surveillance and self destruction. Initially, this was viewed as polarizing and grim, but it later gained acclaim for its raw, semi autobiographical look at paranoia and addiction. Our seventh selection today is Watership Down by Richard Adams, 1972 fantasy novel and allegory, and book one of the Watership Down series. A band of rabbits flees their doomed warren to find a new home, building a civilization grounded in myth, courage, and survival. It was rejected by multiple publishers and dismissed as too adult for children. It went on to sell tens of millions and remains one of the most beloved fantasy stories ever written and one of the worst decisions some publishing companies made. Number 8, The Blade Itself by Joe Abercrombie, 2006 grimdark fantasy novel, the first book of the First Law series. A barbarian haunted by his past, a torturer seeking redemption, and a vain nobleman collide in a bloody, cynical world of politics and war. I can understand this one initially being slow selling. It was so shockingly different from what else was out there at the time. But the series built a rabid cult following as the years went by, and it ended up helping define the grimdark fantasy subgenre. Our ninth book today is Annihilation by Jeff Vandermeer, 2014 weird sci-fi horror mashup, book one of his Southern Reach series. A team of women explores Area X, a mysterious, changing ecosystem that devours human understanding. Reality and identity unravel together. Though acclaimed, it sold modestly at first, later exploding in recognition after the awards showed up, critical reevaluation took place, and then the 2018 film adaptation. Our final book for today is The Ocean at the End of the Lane by Neil Gaiman, 2013 dark fantasy novel, and it's a standalone. A man returns home to recall the eerie, magical events of his childhood when ancient forces and memory blurred into wonder and terror. Released to quiet sales and confusion about its audience, just who is this book for? It's now hailed as one of Gaiman's finest, a darkly nostalgic modern classic. And yes, I know I said Gaiman and Gaiman. I can never remember how to pronounce his name. Feel free to tell me in the comments. These 10 prove that failure is not the end. It's just part of the journey. Many of these stories were too strange, too sad, or too ambitious for their first readers, but they waited patiently for the right time. Join me for the next episode in this series, our fourth, where we'll hit books that were outright disasters, pulled from print, ignored, or even mocked before they found their people. Some of the most beloved speculative fiction ever written almost vanished forever. And that's where we'll go next time. Until then, keep turning those pages. And remember, sometimes the best books just need a second chance. We'll talk to you next time.